Greetings, YouTube. I am currently on vacation, hence this different kind of more intimate setup with no webcam and just the game, or in this case, of forums in front of me. And there was a world that existed where the Wi-Fi in my cabin was non-existent or so bad that I just couldn't upload videos for 5 days, and maybe that would have been good for me. I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm sitting here in this cabin on the living room floor recording this because I missed a day in the community and quite a few days. There won't be much to miss, especially on the eve of a new content day. But this was not one of those days. June 6th, 2023 had so much news to cover that I'm just going to do my best to get to it in as many ways as possible and then figure it out from there. We know that cheating happens every day in the game. We know, according to the terms of service, that the arena is filled with people who don't actually grind on their own accounts. They have somebody, maybe they're in a different country, maybe they're a friend, I don't know, somebody that they share their account with that grinds the arena and have for years. And I've been told that Kabam knows this and is actually okay with it. Now, I don't know how anyone could prove that last part, but it certainly feels like they've turned a blind eye to it. Keep in mind that they've only had one major ban sweep that I can think of that resulted in them saying in the past 2 years that they wanted people who were on the fringes of getting the top 100 or now the top 400 players actually compensated when they were on the fringe right outside of that because cheaters essentially took their spot. So let's dive into this forum post, which is now a little bit old, but still sort of new. It has been a while since the last anti-cheat update. The reason for this is we have been working on some new tools to tackle one of the areas of the game that players have regularly asked us to pay more attention to, the arena. Earlier today, we banned over 300 players for arena modding and or botting in the Moondragon and Adam Warlock arenas. Because cheaters have a meaningful advantage in the mode, many of these players placed near the top of the leaderboards. In addition to the ban, the following actions are being implemented. Those who were not permanently banned can expect something missing from their accounts when they return. The associated 6-star champions Moondragon and or Adam Warlock will be removed from their accounts regardless of rank or SIG level. No compensation will be made for lost materials. Many players who placed outside the top 400 will be promoted to the top 400 and receive their earned 6-star copy of the champions. That is fantastic. Again, we haven't seen that in a couple years. Because of the number of cheaters at the top, this will be a significant number of players. If you were one of the cheaters modders that was not permanently banned, consider yourself lucky. Further infractions will result in a permanent ban. And I know that some people are probably like, I think it should be a one-and-done thing. And maybe they have a good argument for that, but Kabam has made their decision. Battlegrounds. Our Battleground anti-cheat measures continue to be improved. We learned a lot from the last few days of Season 7, where cheaters really increased their pace of play starting the weekend before the season ended. Beginning with this season, our auto ban will be running more frequently to hopefully lessen the impact these cheaters have. We will also be dedicating more staff time to manual review of our dashboards in the closing days of the season. And it's always tough to say the closing days of the season because if you've lost to obvious cheaters, like if you've faced somebody that, let's say they fought a Korg and they took 6 hits and they finished with 100% health, you're like, what? I've seen that example a couple times of people sending them to me privately. I just haven't made a video about it. We're seeing a number of reports that bans have been reverted. Some of these bans, not all, were always intended to be 7-day bans. In some cases, the system erroneously escalated to permanent bans. We have made the correction to these bans. Now, again, you're going to almost permanently ban the arena, but Battlegrounds, a game mode that compared to the arena, they care more about. I mean, the Battlegrounds is the future of the game. It's the present and the future. It's amazing to me that the costs seem to, for the bans, be slaps on the wrist compared to the arena bans. That doesn't make sense to me, and I need somebody to explain to me how that makes sense to you. Love this. Glad to hear it. Apparently, some players were banned for incorrect times. In these cases, temporary bans were showing as permanent. The devs are working to correct those display errors. Again, if somebody doesn't think DNA 3000 works for Kabam, like, how do you get this information so casually if you're just someone like myself that just talks about this randomly in a non-area of the company with no context? So you pushed ban waves, and after that realized most of the bans were top whales, and reverted the bans, and now are calling those players lucky. Guessing can't bite the hand that feeds. Well, that was kind of honestly my first thought too, because these are accounts that have carried a large portion of a company's finances, a company which laid off a pretty decent percentage of their workers this year, and also has a climate where more games are shutting down, even Marvel games. So it's a fine line between wanting to tell the player base they're doing something, but also realizing they're going to be biting the hand that feeds them. Now, if you bite all the hands that feed you, the game may not exist. But if you bite none of the hands that feed you, it's the Wild West of cheating. So there are people on both sides who say this. And I've covered both sides on this channel. It's just really amazing to me. And I am used to seeing so many of the same names in the top 100, the top 50 of the arena. And a lot of those players from some of the major alliances got bans. And I wonder what those alliances are going to do now in the future if they just say, all right, well, you finally did something. It's not worth it to me to grind for a 6-star anymore. Maybe it's not worth it to me to play the game. Or maybe they'll find a different way to do the same thing. We've seen that before in the past as well. I imagine there will be some who don't care if they farmed over 30k units and only got hit with a 7-day ban. If you don't refund units, you should have just made it permanent. That's a great perspective as well. I really hate to see someone lose their account, but modding and botting are capital offenses in this game because it shrinks the value of this game down to 0. What's to stop temporary ban players from doing it again when they update their modding tools as they usually do? Again, great point. Start topics. I have so many thoughts on this. And here we go. There's an escalation process for bans, and most players do not draw a permanent ban the first time around, even potentially serious ones. As far as I'm aware, no ban is being reversed. They were simply set incorrectly. That's why it initially seemed to have like a huge proportion of them were permanent. No ban wave is typically nothing but permanent bans. Well, there's an exception to that, and that's when some players in Kabam's mind stole like 45,000 units worth of crystals years ago. That was a fun video topic that really blew my mind. So, yeah, it's interesting timing, especially because we now know that 7 stars not only can be used in the arena, but newer champions will all be available at some point, even if it's just in Titan crystals, as 7 stars. And so that really ratchets up the future of new champions regarding health pools and attack pools and everything in between. So this is certainly something to keep an eye out on. Not at all what I expected to be doing on my vacation, but at the same time, it is huge news in this community. Thanks again for the support of my channel throughout this week. It has been a wonderful vacation so far.